My name is Zon Eastis, and I'd like to call to order the Guilford Select Board meeting of Monday, September the 23rd. Welcome to everybody in the room here. It's great to see you. Here comes Michael. And we need to see the folks that are online. I think we know who everybody is, but it would be good to make sure. Barry Leshnick, Tammy's iPhone, I'm assuming is Tammy Sargent. All right, we'll move ahead to the rules of procedure.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Chip, are you up for that?
Yeah, just let me please say that.
Oh, Michael.
Welcome.
Do you need an agenda? I'd like that.
I printed out.
It's not coming out. There we go. All right, here we go.
You're welcome.
The Select Board is required by law conducts meetings in accordance with Vermont Open Meeting Law 1 V.S.A. 310 to 314, except as provided in Section 313 of that title. At these meetings, the public must be afforded a reasonable opportunity to give its opinion on matters considered by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. Such public comment is subject to the reasonable rules established by the chair of the Select Board under 1 VSA 312H.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right, next on the agenda is changes to the agenda, and I don't believe there are any changes to tonight's meeting. So we'll move right ahead to the next section, public comment. If there are any announcements or comments that anyone in the room or online would like to make, this time is turned over to you. It's 8:32. You have 10 minutes. All right, I think we'll move right along then. There's another moment at the end of the meeting that we give over to public comment as well, so keep your pencils sharpened and take notes, and we'll be glad to have comments at the end of the meeting. So the next order of on the agenda is approval of minutes. We need to look at the minutes of September the 9th.
I have looked at them, so
Would you
I shall
Move, thank you. Is there a second to move?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tara, to approve those. All right, is there any further discussion that we need here at the select board about the minutes? Everybody comfortable? Okay, since we're all here, we can have a single vote. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thanks very much. Then we'll move right ahead to the next item on the agenda, which is our finance area. We'll look at the warrants. Are you prepared, Karen?
Yes, I would like to move to accept the warrants as written.
I was thinking, I get the week.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I always think that someone needs
Yeah.
to second it. So payroll, week 9/15/24, it's $8,759.12. Payroll week 9/22/24, $8,390.79. Expense warrant number 2506 is $48,265.31. Expense warrant number 2506F is $138.75 for a total of $65,553.97.
I'll second that.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Is there any thing you want to let us know about?
Yep,
Discussion?
we had $15,694 for gravel to Zulu's which is quite a bit. We had $5,479.04 from emergency management budget for the 2 radios, and then an additional $10,958.08 was from ARPA funds that were awarded for those 4 radios. These are the same radios that the Guilford Fire Department and the highway crew uses, so everyone should be able to communicate. $1,793.14 to Barrows and Fisher for diesel. The library got $7,948 budget approved by the town for books and services, and we had $267.20 in books this past period. And the town is just keeping track of the invoices until the threshold is met.
Any further questions for related to the warrants? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thank you. We'll move ahead to the next item on the agenda, which is updates and reports. And we'd like to hear from Erica at this point.
Good evening, everybody. We have been very, very busy here in the town office. We have finally caught up with recordings that were backlogged, so now everything is up to date and
Property, what kind of recordings?
oh
What would you call those?
yeah, mostly property transfers, things that come in from attorneys for stuff like that.
So town clerk business.
Town clerk's business, yes, recordings that are required to be done and now they're up to speed, so.
Great.
None of them should be, a lot of people were saying, where's my, whatever it was, and now they should all be in the records. And we're moving forward. Let's see, I think everybody on the select board got this notice from Wyndham Regional Commission about the Public Service Department seeking assistance to spread the word and take part in their 2024 Mobile Wireless Survey. So I've posted that on the front page of our website. It's pretty quick. I did it because I'm really excited to tell people that I have no cell service at my house. So that's right on the front page, and the letter goes on to say, the public's involvement is critical, and later this year they're going to do a drive around and test areas that coverage is limited or unavailable, and according to the last test, those areas are being prioritized. So they're going to start that in the beginning of November, and if you tell them where you don't have cell service, they'll look at that. Let's see, I've been very busy with a energy grant that we'll talk about in a little while, but I spent a lot of time in the last several days working on that. There's still a little bit of information that we're providing from that big records request that we got about a month ago. Some things that were deemed missing that I tried to identify and provide. So I feel pretty good about that, but there still more may still come. Questions, that's fine. I have been working with Passive on a claim for some highway equipment that needed to get repaired due to a little fender bender.
That's our insurance company.
Yes,
for
that's
anybody
our
who doesn't
insurance.
know.
And so what I did to research that is that I asked them if we should just go ahead and pay the claim or pay the repair or file a claim, and they strongly advised to file the claim because that it wouldn't increase our premium any more than our premiums are not very high, and because we have a very good record, so they suggested that we get them to pay for it. I'm still researching and getting quotes for cameras and other security for the town office. I'm gathering quotes. I just got one today. So I hope to present a proposal soon for that. I put out an RFP for sand for the winter, and that will be coming up for the select board's approval on October 16th, which is the next meeting because the second Monday of the month is Indigenous Peoples' Day. So there will be no meeting that day, that Monday, the 14th. The meeting will be October 16th, the Wednesday. Tomorrow, I get to go out on a bridge tour with Danny and some folks from V.S.A, some bridge inspectors who filed some reports and told us some stuff was wrong with some of the bridges and how we should fix them. So we're going to go look at that tomorrow. I've also done several trainings lately. I went up to Montpelier with Ellie and we did election and town office security training with the Secretary of State on September 10th. I did a municipal budgeting webinar with VLCT last week. Tomorrow I'm doing grant basics webinar with VLCT.
Oh, can I ask a question, or do you want to wait until?
Ask a question.
I was just wondering whether in the election training this is the November election,
Yes.
was there anything extraordinary that you were trained to respond to?
There was some de-escalation training, and their suggestion was, I mean, this was a guy from Homeland Security that came to do the presentation, but basically he said, hello really helps.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Hi, how can I help you?
Okay.
So
Good
that,
to know.
yes. More training. Next week, the town office is going to be closed, so staff can attend the VLCT Town Fair on October 2nd. That's next Wednesday. And I know Veranda has signed up. If any of you guys want to do that too, you're welcome. And Ellie and I will go, and we're trying to get some other
Where is
folks to go to. It's in Killington.
Okay.
And there's some election stuff there too, so. Good for us to do. Kate Singer, sorry. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have questions for Erica?
Thank you.
All right, we'll turn then to Highway Commissioner, Road Foreman, Dan.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
We, the backside of the stage road, it should be finished up this week with the grants and aid project the MT3 is doing. We've been out cleaning some of the old stone work that we've done. Matter of fact, we're on this side of the hill. We're gonna start probably grading tomorrow because we're gonna get some rain, and we quit grading because it's just too dry. We do have 3 bridges in town that we're gonna meet with the state in the morning. It's gonna be a little lot, we're gonna find out what we need to do. I don't know what the cost of the repair is gonna be for each one, but there's some undermining with the heavy rains from the summer, and they're suggesting putting some armor, some big rock, and so we're gonna see what they were suggesting to do, and probably by the next meeting, hopefully have some kind of price that, because they suggested getting a contractor in here and doing most of the work, so, which I was hoping that we could last until next spring, so it could be a budgeted item, but with something like that, we'll have to pull out of the bridge fund.
Yeah, it's unanticipated.
Yep.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When the state comes and makes recommendations in history time, do you tend to just take their recommendation, or do you?
Yeah, because they know, I mean, they got bridges of their own when the same, because I've talked to the guy twice so far.
Okay.
He said, we're not the only, every town's got problems,
I see.
just with all the water we've had, and, they're undermining, the riprap gets moved a little bit.
Yeah.
But one of them's Kyer Road, the other 2 is down in Green River, one's Jelly Mill Road, and the other's Bellis Bridge.
Oh, I see.
So, Eric and I are gonna go out tomorrow and meet with them, and they'll make some recommendations and whatever, so.
Okay.
But they come in every 2 years and inspect all the bridges. So this is the even year, so it's every 2 years they come in, so. And we just got the reports probably a couple, 3 weeks ago.
I think I saw one.
And I've been trying to get them down here early, so, because the water right now is low. So if we can
Good opportunity.
get an opportunity to try to get it fixed, and
Okay.
we'll try to do what we can. If not, we'll have to go to a contractor and get prices and
Oh, I
whatever,
see.
so. Other than that, we're just, next month, we'll be starting getting trucks ready for winter. Oh, it's gonna be around the corner. And we'll be starting blowing leaves pretty quick too, so. But all in all, the roads have held up pretty good. We've been doing a little spot grading here and there just because they get washboardy.
Yeah.
So. And we don't try to chloride this time of year because if we use chloride now,
When the rain comes.
in the springtime, when you do your summer grading, because it's on the new budget, you ain't gonna have any money for chloride,
I
so,
see.
but, yeah.
I see.
That's why
A lot of times
it's
we,
a bit dry now.
yeah, a lot of times we just water, well, if you can find water, we water the hell out of them.
You water the roads?
Yep.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, we've got our own tank and we load it up with water and spray them just to give it a little moisture to them.
yeah.
So when they roll down, but yeah. And we've been hauling a little gravel here and there in places. That's another thing we gotta be careful of. Because we haul too much gravel this time of year when our little mud season comes around, and we're shy on money for mud gravel, so. But other than that, that's basically what we've been doing.
Thanks very much. Anybody have any questions?
I do. Dan, can you change the direction of a road without any state input or studies, just because it's common sense? And what I'm referring to is the Cemetery Hill Hunt Road that goes onto Heinsberg
That's
Road.
been mentioned 2 or 3 times.
So I think one of them
You
should be one
could
way.
just do it.
One should be
The
one
board
way.
can say, all right, we want to do, but trying to educate people going one way, you're still gonna have people coming up the other way. It's,
People have to back up if someone comes up the other way now
that's one of the
anyway.
narrow, and actually, you know, years ago in the wintertime, we used to close it off.
Right.
We never plowed it. We just dumped a load of gravel on each end of it and put a road close sign on it and opened it
Which
back up.
is this, the
Senator Hunt.
Senator Hunt Road?
Yeah.
Off the
Definitely think
Carpenter
it
Road
should
for
be-
anybody who
It's
doesn't
gotten,
know what
it's so
we're
much
talking
Yeah.
about.
narrow.
Yeah.
the ditching.
And, you know, there's another thing that, of course, we're doing stone line ditching, and that's, one culvert in the middle of that road would make a big difference, but the property owner does not want the water, and you can't just turn water on us, you gotta get written permission, and
I see.
so, believe me,
Yeah, I'm sure. of it.
I've mentioned it many times to the landowner, and he just sort of looks at me and
Yeah,
shakes his head, so.
Well, I'd like to have faith that people can read signs. So,
So it's up to the board, if you wanna make it, we don't have to go through the state. If you
Right.
wanna make it a one-way, all we gotta do is just get
Do you-
some one-way and,
do you support that for
Yeah.
that road?
Yeah.
and which
It's
way would
dangerous.
you have it go?
I would have from Heinsberg going up Hunt Road.
It would be one way.
Yep, and exactly, and going down
skinny
Cemetery
one.
Hill.
right,
Yeah, because you can still turn a truck around the Cemetery Hill part, but you can't make a turn the other way.
no,
Okay.
you have to go up the Havel Road and turn around at the intersection and come back.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
And there
Do you mean
aren't any.
Carpenter Hill
I
Road?
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carpenter Hill,
Okay,
Cemetery.
well, it's all right. Well, I suddenly I was like, there is a
Carpenter
cemetery
Hill,
road.
that's-
Right,
Yeah.
What's it? Maybe, okay, just
Carpenter
funny.
No, the board, if
Exactly.
the board wants to make that decision, say one, you know, we wanna put a one-way sign, it's up to the board, I mean, it's,
Yeah, it seems like we'd want to, if we'll take it up another time, I think it's what
Right,
we don't want
right.
to
I
discuss
just
it
wanted
tonight,
to
it's not on the
ask.
agenda, but it seems
Yeah.
like we'd also want to check with the property owners in the area and find out how that would affect them, you know.
cause I know even when we grade it, we'll be grading down the road and, you know, the machine's taking up the whole road,
Yeah.
Right.
then I just go, it's easier for you to back up than.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Right.
Okay.
I want to add a little info to what Danny was talking about, the work on Stage Road is the MRGP work that's funded by a grant from the state mostly. And that is, it needs to be finished by September 30th. So we're right on track for that. And
Fantastic.
Wyndham Regional's going to come take pictures and
But to
confirm that the work has been complete.
That project came out really nice.
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, he was late getting going, and he had 4 machines down there, and unfortunately, I was down here visiting with them when they were doing the culverts. They put 7 culverts in one day,
Wow.
because they had 4 machines going, but then they got caught in the middle of an electrical storm, and it poured like a son of a gun. It was kind of soupy down there for a while, but it's dried out now, and it's, I'm hoping to grade the hill tomorrow.
all
Well,
right, Dan.
Dan, the sand is in the hourglass.
Yeah.
Next week, I'll be counting days.
Well, we're on it. So thank you, Dan. Thanks very much. All right, folks, we'll move on to the next order of business, which is old business. This is the opportunity we have to look at things that the board has already looked at in the past in one fashion or another, and it's a continuation of work. So the first one is the Guilford Reserve Fund Balance Policy. We would take the action this evening if the board so decided to approve the changes that we talked about at our last meeting, and then that policy would stand in place of any previous policy that's existed. So I don't know if there's anything that anybody else wants to talk about here at the board.
I need to.
Okay, all right.
something. So I asked, the impetus for this in the first place a lot was our auditor, Bonnie Dow, having some pretty wonky, like in the proper sense of the word. She's very
Wonkish.
wonkish. They were wonkish. You're right. So she had some real in the weeds kind of stuff that she wanted to change. Most of it was grammar though, and trying to be clear. And she sent me another group of changes today that they didn't seem like they changed anything in the way that you would use this policy. But it's I just want to point out she wanted to change the expenditure of the, taking that out so it reads, will only use the reserve fund. So taking out extra words to make it more clear
A paragraph.
there.
I'm wondering, can I just
yes.
stop here?
Yes.
I think if there might be nothing changes, but I think we should probably look at them.
Okay, yep.
So does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
I'd rather visually see her suggestions and maybe at a next meeting take it up. Are you?
Sure, that's
Okay.
fine with me.
Comfortable with
Yep,
that?
so that was, sorry, just a late addition
Yeah,
to
that's
the
right.
changes.
Well, I mean, I just think we'd lose track if we went through a number of those. I would get.
Okay, so you're saying that the changes aren't here?
They are in the red line that's
Okay.
in the folder but I just did it today, so if you were looking at it over the
Right.
weekend.
And then did you
see it.
convert
Yeah,
the other
the
one?
final,
Okay.
yeah, I did, but it's good to see the red line, I think.
Right.
How would people feel about the idea of, that we would look at this and then these changes that are proposed now in the folder and review them for the next meeting and be ready to.
Are you saying we would look at them now and talk about them and then,
I'm just saying,
And then
I'd like to
vote
move the vote away. I don't really care how we do it.
Okay.
Actually, I don't have a feeling for that. I mean, if we want to work through them, then I think we should get documents up and look at everything, if we want to do that right now.
okay. So this is in our folder or not?
Yes,
is.
Yeah,
it's called the
there's-
red line. Let's get a sense here of what we'd like to do. Do we want to go through these word changes right now in the red line?
I'd rather not.
Okay, rather wait.
Yeah.
All right.
Do it all as a whole.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
And so we'll come prepared at the next meeting, having looked at these, and maybe we can propose questions to Eric ahead of time so that we can be
That'd be cool.
pretty tight at the next meeting, and then if there are any adjustments or anything, and be ready to then.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're not material changes, they're just
Yeah.
changes of tightening the language to make it a
Yeah,
better policy
so the
still.
rest of the changes
All
are
right.
still the same.
I think we should,
The
trust
main
what.
one being going back to 20%
Yes, that would be,
rather than
Right.
25.
that's not, there's no change there, okay.
There will be a change.
Well, I mean, but there's no
But
change
there's
from
no
what.
change from the
yeah,
changes.
Yeah, okay. All right, we okay to table that one?
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a motion I think I will make a motion to table that discussion,
I'll second that.
all right, to the next meeting. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of tabling, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thanks very much for that patience, yeah. The next item on the agenda is, it's a topic that we'll be discussing this evening that we've actually spent a lot of time on in the past. And this is a new outcome here, a new development that we want to at least consider this evening by discussion. We'll talk about an action at a future meeting. You may remember that Guilford has had for many years on the books. In fact, it was essentially the town had forgotten about it. It was a bond that is now worth about $175,000, and it was raised in the first place to support the work of Guilford's water line. But in the end, the money was not used. And so it was held in this bond bank for a number of years. And now it's been discovered that money can actually be turned over to the town and needn't be held any longer by the bond bank. Is that correct?
Yes, so the bond was finally paid off just a couple of years ago,
Yes.
completely free of any more payments from the town for that bond. And I know Sheila started trying to work with the bond bank to get that money so Guilford could use it, and the bond bank kept saying, well, it needs to be for a project, which is true statutorily, and it still would, but they understood because it was in their keeping, it was not earning interest for anybody. So they're trying to work on ways to get the money back to the town, and this summer, Ellie and I got a call from them saying, we think we figured out something, a way to do it. I think they have, it's kind of complicated to understand, but they go through cycles of funding and refunding for all the bonds that they hold, and during one of these refunding cycles, they can ask us to release the bond to the bank, to the bond bank, which already holds it, and then they will immediately issue the money back to us.
Oh, excuse me, Erica, there seems to be something
Reissue?
saying,
Yes.
turn up the volume.
Oh, I can just close that.
Oh, that isn't relevant.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
So please go back.
Yeah, so it's just a financial mechanism that the bond bank has sorted out that can get Guilford that money back, so they're not holding it in their interest-free.
So then our plan would be, if this goes forward, is that we would set this, we've checked out what we can do with it, and we would set it in an account, not a fund.
No, it
But
does have to be in a fund.
Oh, that got
Yes.
changed then?
Yeah.
Okay,
it does.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
okay.
that was something that came from Bonnie. It needs to be in a restricted bond.
Okay, so then we would put it in a restricted bond fund, and it would begin earning interest for the town, which is something that we haven't seen from that particular money, which is a good thing, I think. Would be welcome. And it retains its original purpose that only the town can determine how the money will be spent, not the select board. So there have been talks about using that money in the past for one project or another, and it would remain exactly like that. So there's no danger that the select board would put the money into general coffers or whatever, or spend it unwittingly. It would need to be, if it were going to be spent on a project, it would need to be part, as I understand it, of a town meeting, an article in a town meeting that the town would have an opportunity to vote on.
Yeah.
So I have a question, which is, I imagine that the select board could recommend a topic, you know, for the warning. But could citizens also do that if a group of citizens got together and
Just like
said,
any
this is what we think is a worthy project?
Correct.
They could also put that on the agenda for town meeting,
Yes.
I mean, on the warning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they could request that it be put on the town warning. The
Right.
select board has to finally approve all of those, and that's not to claim a lot of control, except that there are statutory considerations for every single article that need to be undertaken. So that would all need to come under review before it got onto the warning. But yes, that's right. Any kind of gesture could come from the community about how to spend the money.
Is there a time cap on this?
You mean like when it would come to us, or
No,
when it
like,
needs to be?
can we only keep it in this fund for 5 years? Is there any parameters on when it needs to be spent?
No, once it gets moved over to the town, it's town
Okay.
money. It's in our general fund, basically. It's in its
So-
own fund, but it's in our bank.
So it would start being seen in our town report
Mhm.
every year, and
Mhm.
people could track it and see what the interest has been, and then when it's finally determined, either all or part of it might be spent on a project, that would also be shown in the town report as well.
So this just,
Sorry, it was in the last town report.
It was?
and prior to that, People
I
didn't know
don't
where it was?
I'm not sure. I don't
Prior to that,
know
nobody
the
knew where,
history.
knew it
Well,
was.
not just 1 year, this got discovered maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. During COVID, I think,
Okay.
that's what I remember.
The town was paying $25,000 a year to work on paying it off. It was taken out in 2012 or 2013. And so there always was, it was in the water
There
line
was a
fund.
record.
It was the water line fund. And yeah, so it was trackable, and every town meeting and every budget since 2013, it was approved and the town was paying it to the US Bond Bank. But now it's done and
Good.
we can get it.
Thank you for that
Excellent.
clarification. I guess I just meant that it would be seen in the report as a particular fund, as a,
Yeah. It would be a different type of fund.
a different type
Yes,
of
the Bonnie advised us that we can't just
put it.
keep it in the water line fund because there is money like being trapped in that water line fund already, so
For other things, yes, I see.
we'll have to do some journal entries, maybe. I'm not sure how you would do that.
Well,
So-
that's good news.
It is good news,
Yeah.
yeah, and
It
so we think, according to the folks at the bond bank, which we may meet at town fair, some of
Oh,
them are going
right.
to be there at least. This event happens at the end of November, and the money can be issued back to us. in
Will
December.
there be a big check with a bow on it or anything?
No, Marty, no, they don't want to send a check in the mail. They didn't think that was a good
So
idea.
I'm imagining that select board will be addressing this again in the future at some level. I don't know exactly what that will look like, but
Yeah.
just so we know that it's happening. All right, are we comfortable to move ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a single meeting action, and that simply means that either there's a reason that we need to address an issue right now, and that's why we can't have it be a double meeting agenda, which is our general practice. So a double meeting action, I mean. And the single meeting reason tonight is because of a deadline. There is a deadline. Or another reason might be that we would have a single meeting action is because something is just like a detail, something that's not going to affect our business or working in a big way. So the board has already approved and seen at various times this notion of MERP grants.
Do you remember what MERP
Yes,
stands
it's
for?
I think it's the Municipal Energy
Resilience
Resilience Program.
program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Municipal Energy Resilience Program. It's about environmental issues and making sure that we're up to speed. There was a mini grant that came from the state for, you may remember, for that we've heard a lot about window inserts.
Oh, yes.
That's done by a MERP mini grant.
Uh-huh.
We had received earlier another form of grant that let Guilford do a series of discussions in the community, and that was also part of one part of this grant program that we're currently in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's
So-
the mini grant.
I'll say what I know about this, then Erica can jump in, and that's that we were informed, as was every town across the state, that there was this money that came from because of COVID dollars. What's coming, it's not ARPA money, I don't think exactly,
But it
but
is federal.
it is, but it's federal. And it would have allowed towns to, its interest was to allow towns to make improvements in the assets of the town. So
Buildings.
we entered into that, investigatively, from a research point of view, and discovered that, in fact, we could probably use this kind of grant in our library to increase its environmental rigor, maybe would be a way to say it. So we were sort of moving forward with that, and then the state suddenly determined in their programming and their thinking that in fact Guilford and many, many other towns would no longer qualify. We're not going to be part of the program. Okay, so that got used to that. And then just last week or 10 days ago, we discovered that no, in fact, we can be in the program all over again. So there's this kind of on again, off again feel. But the pressure on the staff is that the deadline is already this Friday, I think. Is that right?
This Friday.
Yeah. So if we're going to take advantage of this or attempt to take advantage, there's no promise. If we're going to attempt to take advantage, then the board needs to authorize Erica to make application to this grant program. What it might mean is about $150,000 that might be able to be used specifically for improvements at the library.
Oh, that would be great.
There's no problem with figuring out what those are. There have been a few meetings around to get square on those. And there's a process. There was an audit of all of our assets that was done as part of the original part of the MERP grant. And so they focused on the library too. So it's all just stepping right up. And I like it too because the library, many aspects of the library are part of our asset management, next steps in our asset management program. So this is a way of handling that without the community having to forward those kinds of costs.
And also, would this be able to be used to make the library ADA compliant?
Partly.
Yes, there is an element of this implementation
Because
grant
that's a shameful thing, that our
Yes.
library is not
that
accessible.
that is a 20% part of this thing, of this application, so the first part of the MERP grant provided this big old energy audit of just the library and identified places where it could become more energy efficient. No surprises, really. The boiler needs replacing. It's very old. The capital needs assessment 5 years ago identified that. There's stuff like that. They say you could put solar panels on the roof, but I'm pretty sure the trustees don't want to mess up the slate roof that way right now. So this is just a really valuable energy audit, and this application, they tried to make it as easy as possible, just taking information from the audit and its summary with the costs involved and sending it through. What I'm working on mostly is a narrative to add to the value of the application. So,
Is this,
and I'm collaborating with Amber on that.
Yeah.
this says building town office?
Yeah,
Is it the
that's-
library?
It's the library.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Good
Okay,
catch.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's also important to note that this grant, if we receive it, and there's no promise that we would, but if we would receive either all of it or even part of it, there's no match to
That's
required
amazing.
here. So that's
Free money.
It's just money that would come to us that would be able to use toward our asset
Towards
management
asset.
program.
What does
toward
the
this.
contingency cost mean? 10% contingency
Just-
cost?
They just put that in.
They add it,
It's
and-
just.
Okay, so it's all included. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm in favor of pursuing this.
yeah. Huh?
I'd like to make a motion that we
Do this.
pursue this and
All right.
authorize.
Authorize Erica, okay.
Move
It's
forward.
amazing.
I'll
I'm
second
convinced.
that.
You're convinced. You'll second that? Any further discussion here at the
Free.
board?
Love to support the library.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, then, no more discussion, so we'll take a vote here. All in favor of authorizing Erica to move forward on this application, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you very much. You're off. You
And
go. all
best
right?
wishes to
All right.
Erica and the library.
Okay, next item on the
One question, when do you find out if you get it or not?
Well, the deadline is this Friday. They're
Just out of
not,
curiosity.
they're not,
There's no,
granting anything before the deadline, so usually it
Yeah.
takes a couple of months.
couple months out, this one.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But this is
hearing-
an oddball kind of thing, and it is a competitive grant, so there's, every
Yeah.
town in Vermont is now trying to get this grant when they thought they wouldn't be able to.
Right.
It was offered to high needs towns, like some towns were identified as high needs. I know Halifax was,
Yeah,
but we're not high needs, we're low to medium, and that was not, the implementation grant was kind of not offered to us, and then it was. So, I don't know how many
Did our
towns are
need
in.
go up or others just didn't?
They're.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to be thorough.
Great.
They were budgeting and rebudgeting, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, terrific.
Okay, let's move ahead then to the next order of business, which is the select board's being asked to approve the appointment of 3 new members to the Recreation Commission.
Oh, I so move.
All right, so we'll be, just to say it, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, great.
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna be
mean,
appointing Reagan Beebe,
Yeah.
Sylvania Curlin-Smith, and Taylor Franklin.
And, you know, I'm the liaison to the Rec Commission, and they have a really energetic and very capable new chair who's got a lot of energy to bring to it, and she's very orderly, and so I think this is just a real renovation for that commission, and I'm really pleased for them.
Okay, good. So I just want to say clearly, it's for us and for the Recreation Commission that even though we're appointing 3 new people, the Recreation Commission's number of members stands at 9. And so that means that any meeting they have needs 5 members in order to have a meeting. And so it's not a quorum of the number they have on the commission at the moment. So vacant seats count as part of the quorum.
And that's really hard, but
Yeah.
oh well.
One option would be for them, to have, we can lower the seat number to 7 or to 5 or whatever. There have to be between 3 and 9. We won't do that tonight, but that's a consideration. I've actually spoken with Mary Wallace when she was chair before about that idea. So
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't
You
say you
could
were
explore that.
Yeah.
I could speak with Megan about putting it on their agenda, whether they
Yeah,
want to lower the number to
Yeah,
have greater
nice a lot.
efficiency at their meetings.
great. All right, good, thank you.
That's good ideas.
We'll move on then to new business, and the first order of business in new business is we need to consider the retroactive appointment of a task force to interview a road foreman candidate. We probably, the select board needed to have done that ahead of time. We didn't. So I will hereby move that the select board appoint Michael and Chip as the task force to do interviews for the road foreman position. Do I have a second for that?
Sure.
Thanks. All right. Is there any discussion we need to have about that? Does everybody understand what we're doing? We're essentially correcting a mistake, which is what select boards need to do, and we've done it in the past. So, all those in favor of appointing the task force retroactively, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thanks. We'll hear more about that later. All right, the next item on the agenda is a scoping study grant for Algiers. Erica can speak to this, but I'll just say that Guilford applied. The select board, approved this some time back. We applied for a scoping study grant for Algiers, and it was awarded to us recently. Now, that doesn't mean that it's starting in, it's happening right now. There's many steps that we have to go through here. But we just need to know that, and we're just going to be discussing it this evening, and we'll hear more about it, but we can start tonight with what I think Erica has to tell us.
Okay, so the select board, like John said, approved the Algiers Traffic Calming and Safety Committee to apply for a scoping study grant, which is something that V-Trans has absolutely required from the town in order to have any change to the traffic patterns or speed or put even flashing lights or stop signs in Algiers Village. They won't even discuss it without a scoping study. So they've been advising
Can I
us.
just jump in real
Yeah.
quickly and just say, so that we're all clear, that there have been many discussions in the past 5 to 7 years about the possibility of us doing some sort of change there at that intersection. Every single time the state has said, we'll probably need to do a scoping study. Here we go. This is the thing.
Yeah, so there was very good funding this year for these grants that V-Trans was offering, and so we applied for the scoping study, which the grant that we would be getting would be $40,000. Our match is $10,000 for the scoping study. General cost of one of those is $50,000, and then that scoping study would identify potential projects to be done there. Among the ones that we've heard about already is sidewalks, and they would do public outreach. They would probably have a public hearing and hear suggestions from people who have homes, businesses, or use that area, just kind of like we did with the last scoping study. It's a reimbursable grant, so the town is responsible for 20% as its match if we accept the grant. And I just want to say that I've been doing a little bit of research about ways we can fund that match, and I don't want to step on any subcommittee toes, but we do have some leftover ARPA funds that need to be spent by the end of this year. And I talked to Katie Buckley and asked her if this was a possible use for some of that ARPA funding, and she said yes, absolutely. The ARPA committee originally suggested that ARPA funds be used as a match for grants, and they also suggested a project of traffic calming in Algiers is a good use for ARPA money, so to combine those two, and that's a good use for that. The select board can decide if you want to accept this grant, and if that's the way you want to use.
How much is the ARPA funding?
There is a little over $20,000 remaining that hasn't been. Why can't
Obligated.
Obligated.
Obligated is what we have to do with all the money by the end of this year, and we have to have spent it all within 2 years after that.
And so the original ARPA committee that we convened
Yep.
recommended the match for grants.
Yep.
I mean, this is something I recollect
Yeah.
as somebody, as a sort of fellow traveler, not a voting member of that ARPA committee. And I remembered that those were two aspects of future use that very diverse group approved.
And Katie, who's the ARPA advisor for VLCT and former town administrator at Guilford, says that if the town has a funding commitment from V-Trans and there's a required match, then the select board can make the decision to use the ARPA funds. So that then it would be obligated with the grant agreement.
Yeah, okay. And
And
could
so
that,
if-
could that grant agreement be finished by December 31st of this year, do you think?
Yes.
Okay,
Not necessarily the work, but the obligation would be there, and that's what's in.
okay, no, just the obligation.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, so we won't be making any decision this evening, but we'll be looking at this another time as a possibility for us to consider accepting this grant and then, figuring out or discerning what the match would be, where the match dollars would come from. Any other questions or issues about this?
I just have a couple. So it's a $40,000 scoping study that does what?
Have you seen the scoping, like there was a recent scoping study for a bike path in
No, I
the
haven't
Guilford
seen
Center
it.
Road?
might
You
wanna
should
look
check that out, it's on the website, and it's
But
very
this is for
thorough.
the traffic in Algiers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
they
but
make recommendations on traffic control and pedestrian safety?
They
Is that
send
what they're looking at?
engineers.
Yeah,
to do
they'll
that.
do, if it's anything like other studies like this, then they do a pretty thorough analysis of what the spaces look like, and then what are possibilities. They don't propose anything specifically. They propose like maybe 3 options. They usually work with community members.
Right.
So there's a lot of input and read. There's a lot of opportunity for people to engage. And normally they also then figure out what, let's say, 3 options might look like, and then they cost those. And so it's a tool for us, for any select board, to be able to look into the future and think about the possibility of funding a project.
But then the funding would actually come from the state, or would it come from the town for the project?
Implementation
Yeah.
funding,
Yeah.
that's not part of this project. It's just
No, but I mean, so whatever, like they come up with 3 options,
Mhm.
then it has to go before the town and we vote, right? Is the town correct on one of those 3 options, correct? Based on the, I'm trying to see like,
Yeah, you're trying to.
so we're trying to like get down the line.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's 40 grand, it's free money, essentially. It's
Yes.
with the ARPA dollars, no expenditures yet by anybody here.
Yes.
They come out with 3 options. Let's just say they're $400,000 or whatever the state, whatever the options are. Who pays for that?
Yeah, so that.
further grant applications.
Further
right,
grant
that's-
applications,
yeah.
there might be opportunity, I don't know, but in
Yeah.
this case, because of Route 5 running through there might be state or federal funding available.
That's what I was wondering, because everything that we've
Yeah.
heard, everything that you said so far is that any sort of improvements from whatever it is, even sign placement for that little radar speed sign up on
Yeah.
Route 5, had to go through the state.
Yep.
So I'm
Yes.
saying if
That's
it's start,
mandatory.
yeah, so if it's state primarily driven, to me, it's state funded, correct? Or
Well,
through
yeah,
federal
yeah.
grants or whatever.
Yeah, and we don't know much about this. This will be an experience for Guilford because we've never done anything quite like this.
Right.
But it's this grant, this project that would enable us to even have the conversation.
Gotcha,
Right.
no, I got that, I have no
Conversation.
problem with that, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, down the line,
You know,
Then it would
And
be-
even if you don't want to do anything right now with it, it's fine. Like,
Right.
The engineering will still be the engineering in 5 years.
right, okay.
yeah, the study, but yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, I just was looking at what the follow-through would be, like a follow-up.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would be seeking grant money for that scoping study. And with the scoping study in hand, that really enhances.
Then it would
that.
turn into a project
Yeah.
grant fund.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
We
Project
don't-
grant
We don't know
funding.
where the money would come from just yet, but probably there are a lot of possibilities.
Okay,
The town funding it being one of those possibilities.
yeah, that would have to be a town vote, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But it's a mandatory step to move forward, period.
Yeah, no, I have no
Yeah.
issue with that. I just want to make sure that the follow-up is
Yeah.
clearly outlined as well as it can be.
Okay, that's very good points, Chip. I think that we want to make sure that this is, so we'll look at this at another meeting about accepting and obligating it to the extent that we can. How about that? All right? And I'm not saying we're going to do it, I'm saying we'll consider it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then I think the ARPA subcommittee too could jump on that to see with the dollars allocated and obligated, because it makes a lot of sense to me to do it that way. Otherwise, we're spending
I'll just
$10,000.
say at that point that we did say that we wouldn't reconvene that committee for any purpose. So
Okay.
they've given their recommendation to
Right.
us. I'm sure we can talk to any of the individuals,
All right, let's do
or
that.
they're free to talk to
Cool.
us if they hear about this, but we won't reconvene them to pull anything out.
Oh, perfect.
I
Okay,
think that
cool.
we should make a decision at the next meeting now.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, you're on the next agenda then. All right.
Right.
Good. Just to say it, one of the items that came out of the ARPA committee too was why we have this $20,000 was the ARPA committee recommended that we enter into an agreement with Wyndham Regional Commission and use $20,000 as a grant writer support
Oh, cool.
for a collective regional grant writer. Well, Wyndham Regional at that time was talking about that. They're not talking about that, or they're not there yet. So we have that money to spend. But in fact, we are repeatedly finding opportunities of grant writing right here
Yeah.
that we haven't seen before in our community. And so it's like a really sensible way to use this money, I think. So
That's nice.
it's fantastic. Thank you,
Thank you,
Erica.
Erica.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is to review the auditor's draft financial statements of fiscal year '24. And I will take a few minutes to do that. I want to just preface it by saying that this is a pro forma thing that the select board has to do. There's a requirement on the part of the professional auditor that they need to submit a draft document, which they have done to us. And then we don't go over it with a fine tooth comb, we simply review it for any considerations. And then the final process, which is multiple steps, but begins. They can't begin those final the processes until we sign off on their review. So I'd like to very quickly just highlight a few things from their draft letter, a letter that they will include with the audit, or something very similar to this. And I'd just like to make a few notes for the community because we're doing very well with this, and I want people to know that the professional auditor did not identify any significant or unusual transactions or significant accounting policies in any of the work that they looked at for fiscal year '24. There were two issues that needed to be addressed, but there's levels of forcefulness in accounting processes, and these didn't even rise to the very lowest of levels, the couple of changes that need to be checked on. They're proposing 14 adjusted journal entries, I don't know the right words, and that, just so you, 14 out of thousands and thousands, that's down. Last year they found 59. So we're seeing improvements in our ability to track here in the office and make sure that things are in good order. They had no disagreements whatsoever. They would need to acknowledge if there were any disagreements of any sort with the management, with our team here. They had none, and they didn't encounter any significant difficulties in working with our staff, and they identified no material weaknesses in the town's systems of internal control. So I just want to say all that because it's really a good mark. It's because it's pretty common for auditors, that's their job, to be very, very fine-toothy, and they find issues and they're not finding them with us. So that's really good work. Just want to say that.
Ellie compared it to a home inspection. Like,
Right.
they have to find something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if everybody, the review, just so we know, is the document that they're sending us, they sent us, is a draft of what they will be sending us of their audit. And they're telling us in the letter, so it's a many pages of figures, but they're telling us here that they didn't find anything unusual. I don't know if anybody has anything they'd like to say.
This letter is a summary of the report, so that's great.
So will we be approving, they're going to submit a final report as based on this draft?
Yes, once we, basically what we're doing with this is we would be authorizing, we don't even have to act. Just the fact that we are talking about this evening means that they are now authorized to go ahead with their final.
Select board review is what they requested, and Ellie and I we have a couple very minor questions to clarify for Bonnie. And we'll send them to her if you guys have any.
No, I thought it was great. You know, when you read through the letter, and I mean, I don't know how many people are aware of it, but when a CPA firm, comes in and looks at any municipality, they have to, it's the proverbial fine-tooth comb. It's GAS, it's the Government Accounting Standards Board. So in that letter, when they write, government accounting standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. I mean, they're under a requirement to operate at a really high standard. So it's much more than you would get from not that I'm putting the local town on or anybody, but it's at a very, very high level.
Exactly.
So they do an amazing amount of due diligence. So to come out of that with just 14, because I just think your home analogy is perfect. They're always going to look for something, so it's perfect. That's actually a really nice job. Because they look for everything, forgery, collusion, fraud. I mean, they cover the whole spectrum of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chip, because I want to just say there have been community members that have touched on that before. While we don't sign a contract with our auditor to tell them to go looking for collusion or deception or whatever, and those kind of things, that we're not asking them to do that kind of search, because that's a particular kind of contract. In their regular work, they are constantly looking for those things, and if they see signs of those, they're obligated by their certification to make sure that we understand what's going on.
Yeah, I work a lot with those, through any kind of $1 billion stadium deals, or in road works, or from California to Chicago. I mean, it's a really high standard.
Yeah. So I think we can have confidence here. So by our discussion this evening, we're essentially saying to the auditors, move ahead.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I feel confident.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there any other business that we need to? I don't think there is any other business. I'm not aware of any that we need to undertake this evening. There's been no correspondence, new correspondence. We have one issue, I just will acknowledge, we have one issue that's ongoing, that correspondence is happening, but we'll be addressing it at a future meeting. And so now we would open it up to, if there's any public comment, anything anybody would like to say. We have 15 minutes that we set aside for this. If anybody has anything they'd like to offer or any comments they'd like to make. It's now
Raise your hand.
It's 7:31, so online, raise your hand or you're in the room. Okay, thank you very much.
Crickets.
We will move ahead. The next item on the agenda is that the select board will be moving into executive session. And just a little housekeeping before we do that. We'll ask people that are in the room here to step out of the building. You're welcome to stay outside, and we'll re-invite you in after the executive session is over. And those folks who are online, we will put you in the waiting room. And when we come out of executive session, we will invite you back in if anyone is in the waiting room.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Very cool to see you guys.
I'll get you
Good
here.
to see you.
So you're staying, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. All right, so I move that we move into executive session to discuss labor relations agreements with employees per 1 V.S.A. section 313A 1B. And I make this motion under the advice, I make this first motion under the advice that premature knowledge of discussions could potentially put the town or anyone involved in the discussion at significant disadvantage. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tara. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you. Second, I will move that we will move into executive session at 7:33 to discuss labor relations agreements with employees per 1 V.S.A. 313A 1B, inviting Erica Elder and Dan Zambrowski to participate in the discussion. And a second for that?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Chip. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, everyone.
Stop.
All right, folks, I will move that we exit executive session at 8:15. Let's first just I will move that we exit, and then we'll have two motions after that.
Oh, I will second that.
Thank you. All in favor of exiting executive session at 8:15?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, then there will be two motions coming out of this. And the first motion I move that we authorize Erica to create an offer letter to extend to James Freeman for Highway Commissioner / Road Foreman per the terms that we spoke about in the executive session.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you. Is there any discussion? All
It's
right.
an awesome moment.
Yes,
in our
awesome. That's
town.
right. Yes,
Awesome.
exactly. Yeah, yes. All right, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Then the second motion, I will move that we appoint a task force of Tara and Michael to secure a smooth transition for Dan as he moves toward his retirement on November 30th.
I'll second.
Thanks, Chip.
Get out your hankies.
Really, that's also an awesome moment. All right, is there any discussion? Any sobbing? All right, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thank you, folks, very much for that. All right, now, you'll bear with me as I read the actions from the previous meeting. We approved the minutes of August 26th. We approved a stack of warrants. We approved the Wyndham Regional Commission for the project management on the Slate Rock Culvert project. And we voted to reallocate two previous ARPA awards, portions of two previous ARPA awards, I should say. Actions taken during this meeting were that we approved the minutes, we approved the warrants, we tabled the action on the Guilford Reserve Fund Balance policy. We authorized Erica to complete an application for a MERP implementation grant, Municipal Energy Resilience Program grant. We appointed 3 new commissioners to the Recreation Commission. The Select Board retroactively appointed a task force to interview the Road Foreman candidate. And we just made 2 motions to authorize an offer letter for a new highway commissioner and road foreman, and we appointed a task force to secure a smooth transition for Dan as he retires. All right, that's a meeting, folks.
Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second for that?
I'll
Second.
Okay.
Michael and I will second.
All right, got 2 seconds. We'll take Michael's that time. I saw his hand first. All right, is there any further discussion about adjourning?
Just a big sigh.
Yeah, it's a big sign.
It is a moment, 48 years.
Yeah, really.
That's all, I mean, basically, he's right, he dedicated his life to this town, not just a
Exactly.
career, but life.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Quote unquote.
All right, so all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, folks, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very kindly.
On October 16th.
Yes, Wednesday.